Welcome back to the Snow Point Cast. Today we're going to be taking a look at a deck from RS to PK called Arcanine. Arcanine's a really great archetype from 2006 that gains some pretty cool tools in RS to PK. Let's get right into it. So starting off with 4 Growlithe, 50 HP on this guy. The first attack, 1 colorless, body slam does 10. Flip a coin, if heads, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. So having a colorless paralyzed attack is always good on a basic. And then fire breathing for a fire colorless does 10. Flip a coin if heads does 10 plus 20. 30 is actually kind of important if you're facing down a Jirachi. This lets you one-shot it because it's weak to fire, so that's kind of nice. And you're also playing, obviously, 4 Arcanine EX as your main attacker. So 120 HP, decent for stage 1. Fire Remedy also helps keep it alive, which is nice. So whenever you attach a fire energy from your hand to Arcanine EX, remove 1 damage counter and all special conditions from Arcanine EX. This is a really powerful ability. Having the power to just take away all special conditions as well as heal a damage counter, both like lets your Arcanine stay alive. Sometimes you can manipulate your number so that your opponent has to 3-shot you instead of 2-shotting you. And also special conditions can be really a pain, especially like Confuse and Poison can really do a lot of damage to you. So being able to take both of those off the table is really nice. Overrun the first attack's pretty powerful. So for fire and colorless does 30, and then it does 20 snipe to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So there's kind of 2 main strategies that you can take with Arcanine EX. One of them, which I think is the more powerful strategy, is like a long game board wipe. So overrun, like obviously you can either go overrun and then keep attaching energy and set up for a flame swirl, which is its second attack, or you can load up a benched Arcanine or Growlithe with the your attachments. And then when this one goes down, you just have that one to promote, which is kind of nice because overrun, like your long game is to overrun, especially in stage 2 matchups, is to overrun so there's enough damage that you can get a potential board wipe with an Ancient Technical Machine Rock, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But overrun, the ability to snipe 20 and 30 to the active is just great for setting up. Also overrun 1-shots of Jirachi, which is clutch. So Flame Swirl as well, Fire Colorless does 100, and then you discard 2 Fire Energy or 1 React attached to Arcanine EX. So this is kind of your cleanup move. After you've hit something with Overrun a couple times, you can attach another energy, and then Flame Swirl KO. It's kind of board dependent. Some boards, you can just overrun and keep overrunning if your opponent's not putting much pressure on, but if they have something crazy, like especially if you're up against LBS or something, you might have to attach other energy and Flame Swirl because it is a good tank buster. It can take out some big threats. You're also playing a Houndoom line, so 2 of the Houndour that have Smog, 50 HP. Smog, for 1 fire, the defending Pokemon is now poisoned. This is just going to be more damage than any other Houndoom's attacks, and also has the added benefit of shutting off power. So again, with stuff like Jirachi, you just get to shut off Stellar Wish, which is pretty clutch. And then also you play 2 Houndoom, obviously, so 70 HP. You play for the Pokebody, mainly lonesome. As long as you have less Pokemon on play than your opponent can't play any trainer cards, except for supporter cards from their hand. So you lock stadiums and you lock trainers, which is, again, great against stage 2 decks. But also you play a variety of stadiums that are pretty good in different matchups. So we'll get into that when we get to the stadiums. But being able to lock stadiums is actually really clutch as well. And then Tight Jaw for 2 colors does 20. Flip a coin, heads, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. There has been, I played this deck a decent amount, and there's been a decent amount of positions where you have to Tight Jaw. Because it's just your only option. Sometimes you have to attach to Houndoom as well. And if you're in a position where you're like, well, if they win if they get to attack again, this is nice because it lets you have an evolution-based paralyzed move. I mean, obviously the Growlithe works as well, but most of the time that's going to be evolved into an Arcanine. So having an option to paralyze on your board later into the game is also really nice. And then Flamethrower for Fire Colors does 70, and then discard a Fire Energy attached to Houndoom. I've also used this attack a decent amount, not a crazy amount, but it is decent to clean up, especially with Overrun's strength. Okay, so getting into some of the support Pokemon, you do play 1 Jirachi because it's a great setup Pokemon. 60 HP, Wishing Star is the power, so when Jirachi is your active Pokemon, you can make it asleep, and then look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one of them, and put it in your hand, and then shuffle the rest back. So a great support ability just to let you help you set up a little bit, whether you need energy or, you know, basic Pokemon, whatever. And then you're also playing 1 Aipom. So the Aipom is from Liam Williams and Sam Huff. They made Who Let the Dogs Out, which is essentially this deck, is Houndoom and Arcanine. And the Aipom, I think, is one of the coolest adds from that list because it lets you do a couple things. Obviously, so 50 HP, snappy move. Once during your turn, if Aipom is on your bench, you can put it to the bottom of your deck and then draw a card. So it's decent to draw, right? Draw 1's not bad if you find it at one point. But also something really cool you can do is with Swoop Teleporter, you can, let's say you have a Jirachi that you had to retreat and they have a Jirachi on your bench sitting there. It's not really doing anything, and it's preventing Lonesome from being active, right? Because you having more bench Pokemon is bad. Something that you can do is use a Swoop Teleporter, get rid of the Jirachi, discard it, put the Aipom on your bench, and then put it to the bottom of your deck, and potentially activate Lonesome, which is kind of a really cool move that you can do with Snappy Move. Okay, and then also the attack is okay because you are a snipe deck, so I have used the attack on this guy as well. So for 1 colorless, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This deck does 10 damage to that Pokemon. So actually not bad, and I think this attack has come in really clutch one time in the times I've been playing this deck. But good to know that that's an option that you have. Snipe 10 is definitely decent. You're also playing 1 Holon's Magneton. So this is your energy support, 70 HP. It doesn't really matter in the HP actually because it's not a Pokemon you're ever going to see play. But how it works is this. So if you have a energy, let's say we have a Houndoom, we have an energy on this guy. How it works is if you have Holon's Magneton, you can attach Holon's Magneton. It's worth 2 rainbow energy, and then the energy goes back to your hand. So not bad, especially because some of your Pokemon search only search for evolution Pokemon, and just being able to have consistent energy in your Pokemon search adds a lot to the deck. Speaking of consistent energy in Pokemon search, Holon's Voltorb also fits with that theme. So it works the same way, except it's just 1 colorless. So the basic Pokemon, the bummer is you can kind of start with this guy, but you can just attach it as a colorless. So if you have a dual ball and you need an energy, that's kind of why you play this, just so you have an out to energy if you only have a dual ball. Also playing 4 Swoop Teleporter, get into the trainer. So Swoop Teleporter says search your deck for a basic Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX, and switch it with one of your basic Pokemon. And then everything stays the same, damage counters, special conditions, whatever. Discard the original basic Pokemon, and then the new one stays in place. So this adds to that Aipom play that I was talking about earlier. It lets you do that, which is nice. Also makes it so no matter what you start with, even if you start with a Voltorb or an Aipom or a Jirachi, you just want to be attacking with Arcanine turn 2. So if you have a Swoop Teleporter and an Arcanine and 2 energy, but you started a Voltorb, you can go attach to the Voltorb turn 1. Your opponent's like, what's this guy doing? He's awful. And then you go Swoop Teleporter, attach, evolve, and then all of a sudden you're attacking with an Arcanine. So Swoop Teleporter is mainly just in here to keep your Arcanine EX turn 2s consistent, because that's the main strength of the deck. Is if you can get a turn 2 overrun, that's when the deck really excels, because that's such an aggressive pressure in this format. So Swoop Teleporter, really cool card. Also playing 3 POW Hand Extension. So POW Hand Extension fits in with that late game overrun strategy that I was talking about. So POW works in one of 2 ways. Only works if you're down on prizes. You can either move an energy card attached to the defending Pokemon to another one of your opponent's Pokemon, or you can switch one of the defending Pokemon with the, or one of your opponent's bench Pokemon rather, with the defending Pokemon. So both of these are good in certain situations, right? Like let's say your opponent has something that's almost dead on the bench that has some energy on it. You can move an energy there and then knock out with overrun and then take out some energy that way. You can also POW, bring something up and then stall for a little bit if it's got a heavy retreat cost, and you just start overrunning to snipe the bench and the active. So a lot of versatile options that you have with this card. Just a solid card in the deck, because if you go over, like I was saying, you can go Flame Swirl early, but most of the time you want to be just loading a second Arcanine EX and let the first one go down after you set up with a bunch of overruns. And then once that happens, POW is activated. So kind of a nice combo there if you are playing the deck correctly. Just playing 3 Warp Point. So again, this just fits in with the theme of getting a turn 2 Arcanine. Switching cards are important, but also this card counters another RS to PK specific card, and that's why it's such a high number in this particular list, is because Cessation Crystal can be really deadly to this deck. Fire Remedy is an ability that you want to be using as much as you can. Lonesome is also ability, Pokebody rather, and Lonesome is also a really powerful Pokebody. And Cessation Crystal, if your opponent has an active Pokemon with Cessation Crystal attached, all Pokebodies and Pokebowers are shut off. So you don't get to use Fire Remedy, you don't get to use Lonesome, you don't get Snappy Move either. So honestly, just great to be able to turn your powers back on if that's something that you need. And also, forcing your opponent to switch can be good in some situations, especially if you set up correctly with Overrun. I was playing 3 Dual Balls. So this is one of your setup cards. So Dual Ball, flip 2 coins for each heads. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon card. Show it to your opponent and put it in your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So just helps you set up, finds Growlithe, Houndours, and then any of these Pokemon except for the Holon's Magneton. And like I was saying, you can also search a Holon's Voltorb with it if you're missing an attachment for turn, so you can hit your attaches, which is kind of nice. And then you're also playing 2 Ancient Technical Machine Rocks. So this is another one of the Liam and Sam cards that I really like and I think is worth keeping just because it's so good in the deck. So ATM Rock is a technical machine. You can't attach it to EX Pokemon or a Pokemon that has something in its name. So you can't attach it to Arcanine, but you can attach it to Houndoom, which is kind of nice. It can also only be attached to Evolve Pokemon, I believe. Yeah, Evolve Pokemon. So Houndoom is the only Pokemon that can have an Ancient Techno Machine Rock. But if you set up your overrun attacks well enough, ATM Rock can be absolutely decimating to your opponent's board, especially against stage 2 decks. Rare Candy is such a good option in this format because you can play it the same turn that you bench a Pokemon, so it's very powerful, especially in any deck that's playing like Pidgeot or stuff like that. So if you're sniping correctly with overrun, this kind of opens up for a win con for you. If you're able to ATM Rock and de-evolve 3 of your opponents' like stage 2s that you've set up that they've rare candied, and you're able to board wipe all 3 of them, that can just give you the momentum to take the rest of the game. So really clutch card if you're playing the deck correctly. Kind of takes a little bit of skill to know where you should be overrunning, and it's matchup dependent, but ATM Rock can be a very game-winning card for sure. Also playing 1 Pokemon Retriever, so it's just to keep your Pokemon consistent in the later parts of the game. So search your discard pile for a basic and evolution cards, basic or evolution cards. You can either pick 1 basic or evolution card, show it to your opponent, put it in your hand, or choose 3 and shuffle them back into your deck. This can be great for getting an Arcanine EX or a Growlithe, you know, whatever part you need. You're only playing a 4/4, your main attacker, so having some recovery is nice. Also can be a good energy recovery. If you've had a Voltorb or Magneton go down, lets your attaches be a little bit more consistent there as well. Okay, getting into the stadium cards, we're going to be playing 3 Cursed Stone. So Cursed Stone, anytime in between turns, each player puts 1 damage on his or her Pokemon that has Poke Power. So you don't play any Pokemon with a Poke Power except for these 2, and the Aipom can go underneath your bench at any time. And like I was saying before, you can just swoop teleport to the Jirachi, so it's not really a big deal for your board, and you also control when you put it in, right? So if you start a Jirachi and you have a dead hand, maybe don't play the Cursed Stone turn 1. But yeah, really good, again, in that ATM Rock late game, just pressures your opponent with powers. Gardevoir is a really powerful deck in this format that ATM Rock and Cursed Stone help a lot with because it's very power based and also stage 2 based. So anything that has powers, honestly, like LBS, stuff like that, being able to snipe it and then also have Cursed Stone damage can be really solid into your late game. I was playing 1 Battle Frontier, so this kind of helps depending on what matchup you're against. So each player's colorless evolved Pokemon, dark evolved Pokemon, and metal evolved Pokemon can't use Poke Powers or Poke Bodies. So this is mainly to shut off Pidgeot. Pidgeot is one of the best support Pokemon ever printed. Quick search is just way too good. Search your deck for a card every turn is like way too good, especially when you're trying to disrupt them later in the game. If they just have the ability to search any card. Like, let's say you warp point and they bring up something on the bench and you're just sniping it around it. If they can just search for a switch card, it's not really that powerful, but having the ability to shut that off is really clutch. And there are some other situations where there are dark Pokemon or metal evolved Pokemon that are good, like Dragtrode, for example, or even in Guardy, there's some metal Pokemon that are really good, or Metagross. There's a lot of different variants in RS to PK. There's so many decks. So having this as a counter is just definitely a solid call because it's really good against Pidgeot especially. You're also playing 1 Crystal Beach. This is a RS to PK only card, and I think it's really worth an addition. I haven't seen all Arcanine EX lists in this format play Crystal Beach, but I think it's too good not to include as a one-of, especially when you're playing multiple Scott. So each special energy card that provides 2 or more energy now provides only 1 colorless energy. So there are 2 main cards in this format that you counter like this. Actually, there's 3. So one of them, Double Rainbow Energy, is really powerful card. It's just worth 2 rainbow. You touch to evolve Pokemon, and then it does 10 less damage. But having a double energy attach is really good. Also, Scramble Energy. It's worth 1 colorless, but if your opponent's down on prizes, which sometimes they do if you start with an aggressive Arcanine and you take a prize on a Jirachi or something, they can just attach it 1 attach and it's worth 3 energy. This is especially deadly against Bombtar, which can be one of your harder matchups because they hit you with Bite Off for a 1-shot. So being able to reduce their Scramble Energy potential is really nice. And then also Holon's Cast Form is another pretty staple. In most Holon builds, they play Holon's Cast Form, and even some non-Holon builds. If you're playing Mentor, Cast Form is just such a good consistency energy option. It's essentially the same thing as Magneton, but it's a basic Pokemon. So being able to search it with Mentor, and then it's worth 2 rainbow. So being able to shut that off and make it 1 colorless is a really good option to have as well. All 3 of those cards are present in the format. Some more heavily than others. Holon's Cast Form especially sees play in a lot of lists. So being able to shut all those off with Crystal Beach as an option is a solid option to have. Okay, starting to get to the supporter cards. You're playing 4 Rockets Admin. So each player shuffles their hand to their deck and then draws up to their prize cards. So decent early game. I mean, you shuffle draw 6, and then as the game gets a little later on, like I said, if they're taking a prize on your Arcanine EX, before you start taking prizes when you're setting up with Overrun, something you can do is Rockets Admin them. Your opponent shuffle draws to 4, which is not that great. Honestly, if I'm shuffle drawing 4, I'm kind of feeling in trouble a little bit most of the time. But you still shuffle draw 6. So you get a disruption option as well as a draw option. And then later into the game, if you have a board set up, like with 2 Arcanines or something, You can Rockets admin your opponent to a 1, 2, or 3 card hand once some prizes have been taken, and hopefully disrupt them to the point where you can just take the rest of the prizes and win the game. Rockets admin, just a staple card, such a good card. Here's link to Steven's Advice. So this is another pretty staple card in this format. It's a really solid supporter. So draw a number of cards up to the number of your opponent's Pokemon in play. If you have more than 7 cards in your hand, including this one, you can't play this card. So max this draws you is 6, which is really good off a supporter. If you're drawing straight 6 off a supporter, that is extremely powerful, which is why you play 2, and it's really good in the format. Steven's Advice, just a great card since 2004. I mean, it's stable in 2004. It's really still good. We're also playing 2 Copycat. So because Steven's Advice is one of those supporters that a lot of decks play, hand size can get a little bit out of control. You start having, 12, 13 card hands, and having the ability to copy that is great. So Copycat, shuffle your hand to your deck, count the number of cards in your opponent's hand, and then draw that many cards. So being able to benefit off of your opponent's big draw hands is really nice, especially with Scott, which we're gonna get to in just a second. Gives you the ability to do that kind of whenever you want, or at least you have to plan your turn out like 1 ahead. But if you plan it out 1 ahead, it just lets you have a really big draw off Copycat. And there are some pretty big combo hands you can get. Like, for example, if you need to hit ATM Rock, sometimes you want to hit a switch option and an ATM Rock. Sometimes POW hand extension as well, something that you can do that's kind of cool. This kind of goes back to POW. But if you have that combo where you can go switch, ATM Rock on a Houndoom, if you're so Scramble Energy and Double Rainbow Energy are both energies that can only be attached to evolve Pokemon. So you can move that energy to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that you plan to de-evolve with Ancient Technical Machine Rock, then de-evolve it, and that energy goes to the discard since it's not on an evolution Pokemon anymore if it goes down to a basic, which is a really cool play. And that's one of those plays that you kind of need a 3-card combo for. Like, you need POW hand extension. You don't need the switch option, but you don't really want to retreat that often. So POW hand extension, switch option, and an ATM Rock. And that's a big combo that you usually have to get off Copycat, because hitting a 3-card combo like that can't usually happen unless you have a pretty sizable hand, and Copycat kind of just lets you get there. Okay, so you're also playing 2 Scott. So Scott is a great supporter. It helps you get more supporters, also keeps your stadiums consistent. Search your deck for up to 3 cards in any combination of supporter cards and stadium cards. That's kind of what lets you play the 1 Battle Frontier, 1 Crystal Beach. Honestly, if you didn't play Scott, it wouldn't be consistent enough to do that. But because you do play Scott, that searchability lets you kind of search it. And also combined with Lonesome, you just lock the stadium in place. So whatever stadium you need to stay in play, Scott being able to search it combined with Lonesome makes for a pretty deadly combo. You're also playing 2 Professor Elm's Training Method. So Professor Elm's Training Method, search your deck for an evolution card, show it to your opponent, put it in your hand. So it finds Arcanine EX, Houndoom, and Holon's Magneton. So mostly just to make your turn 2 Arcanines a little bit more consistent, but also getting out your Houndooms is good. And like I was saying before, the Holon's Magneton also provides an energy if that's something that you need as well. Okay, so into the energy. We're playing good old 11 fires just because you need to be attaching energy. Attaching is quite good. That's all you want turn 1, and that's really all you want turn 2. So you play a pretty significant amount. 11 is, considering your only attacks are worth 2 and 3. You also discard energy as well, though. So it's kind of nice to have that additional if you do need to go for a Flame Swirl route early if your opponent puts on some pressure. Okay, well, this has been Arcanine for the RS to PK format. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to get to them. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next time.